Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Wednesday. It's August 16th. We have 8 baseball games to talk about here on today's podcast. Joined today by Timothy Buell. You all know him in the DFS streets as TastefulTides. Tim, what's happening, my friend?
Not much, Stevie. Yeah, we're both tilting the Coors game pretty hard, waiting for those Arizona bats. But we'll see what happens. Luckily, there's no Coors on the main slate for Wednesday. I was pretty happy. Honestly, I hate trying to break down Coors slates just because they're really tough. It's tough to say kind of like what Coors is going to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, I said on the podcast yesterday, I would have stacked Arizona in this spot in just about any ballpark in baseball. So, not working out happens. The Mariners are doing their thing. I really need Arizona to get going. My pitching on my Arizona stack was one of my better pitching combos that I had today. So, see how it plays out. Still kind of early. That game's in the bottom of the sixth. So hopefully it pans out.
Great call on Elder, by the way, Stevie. You were all over him on, I think it was Grinders Live. That was a great call.
So I really wanted a couple more strikeouts, but I mean, can't really complain when a guy goes out and throws a really, really solid outing. He was 3% owned. So
Yep.
it was really cool. Still, I can't wait for crunch time tomorrow. I'm hoping Eric, who told me I was crazy for liking Elder, is in crunch time chat tomorrow because I'm still waiting for Bryce Elder to get blown up by the Yankees. It just not going to happen, I guess. So, all joking aside, all fun aside, we have a really interesting slate. You were telling me before we got started, you're like, this one's interesting. Yeah, it is very interesting. A lot of different potential ways to build. I mean, another slate where pitching is, so I think that's the best way to say it. So
this slate, I'm just gonna say right off the bat. I mean, we'll break it down game by game, but this game right off the slate, it's gonna be tough. I'm gonna be really interested. I'm already interested to see kind of what ownership is going to be for Wednesday's slate, because this is kind of I see a lot of different ways people can build.
If you are in a sports betting legal state, Noah Syndergaard pitching against the Reds in the I think the game's at one of those 6:40 starts. De La Cruz for a stolen base seems like a very interesting prop to look at for what it's worth. So just throwing that out there. Just throwing it out there. All right, let's talk baseball. We have 8 games. We get started with my Red Sox at Washington taking on the Nationals. Paxton and Gore facing off against each other. 9.5 total in this game. The Red Sox are 170 favorite. Any interest here in James Paxton?
I kind of do. I think that $8,200 price tag is pretty appealing. I know that Washington, maybe they don't strike out quite as much as we'd like them to, but I still think they're a pretty low impact offense, and we know Paxton has a ceiling. So I have some interest in Paxton. I think that he can go out and really dominate in this game. So I think that price tag is a little bit too low, given his ceiling.
Yeah, I mean 8,200. This team is a lot better against left-handed pitching than they are against right-handed pitching. They strike out very low still, but WRC plus, I think they're 13 in WRC plus against left-handed pitching this season. Really, really solid offense against lefties. A little bit of power against lefties as well, compared to a lineup that doesn't really have any power against righties. So I don't mind this spot for Paxton. Like you said, 8,200. He's very capable.
It's meh, isn't it, Stevie? It's like
every pitcher is that way.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, every pitcher.
Yeah.
There's nothing safe about anybody today. So, yeah, I mean, I think Paxton's playable. Mackenzie Gore on the other side of this game, unless the Red Sox lineup just looks terrible, I don't really think I'll have interest in Gore here.
I pretty much agree with that statement. I would say, though, I think if I was making 150 or even 100 teams, I think that given the fact that he's 6K, I don't think I would completely eliminate him from my player pool if I was making a lot of teams, but he wouldn't make like a 20 max for me. But I think he's got a strong enough K rate at 6K. Like, yeah, he probably isn't gonna be a GPP winning pitcher, but I think that he's such a cheap price tag. I think he wouldn't be completely out of my pool.
Yeah, I mean, so my initial thoughts on Gore is he gives up a ton of power to righties. His strikeout rate dips big time against righties. His walk rate is still kind of, I mean, I don't know if it's average or a little below average, but I mean, now Trevor Story's back in this lineup as well. So you got like the combination of Turner, Story, Duvall, and then, I mean, Devers lefty is always very good. They'll have a couple platoon guys in there as well. I just, it's a tough matchup. Like the Red Sox against left-handed pitching is tough. So that was like my original thought. I hear you when you say like he's 6K. And he's capable of 15 plus. He's capable of strikeouts. So I hear you on that for sure. Red Sox bats. I mean, the guys that I just kind of talked about, right? Trevor Story, 4,500. Hasn't shown a ton of power, but I mean, we're seeing him hit the ball really well since coming back from the IL, which is great as a Red Sox fan. Duvall is 4K. I'm prioritizing Duvall and Story for sure. I think Turner is a good play because you can play Turner at second, you can play Story at shortstop, and then get Duvall in the outfield. And as a little secondary stack, that just kind of opens everything up for the rest of your build. Or if you want to go full on stack, you get Devers in there, and then maybe take one of the platoon cheapies, and you get plenty of money for pitching.
I was gonna say, and Reyes at 3,200.
Yeah.
I mean,
Lot of value.
Reyes has been unbelievable, and he's only 3,200. So for the most part, I agree. I agree with you. I think, yeah. So I think Boston is interesting. I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth saying Gore is a good play, but I just think Gore is worth being a sprinkle or two in a 150 setting. I do prefer the Boston bats in that matchup, just to clarify for everybody.
It's baseball, and we're a first look podcast. We talk about all different kinds of sides of every game. Right. Any interest in the Washington bats here?
I don't think so, to be honest with you. Maybe one of the cheap catchers, like maybe like at Riley Adams or Ruiz, maybe Stone Garrett at 2,900, but this wouldn't be like a full stack for me. Maybe like a skinny stack of them, or just like a cheap one off. But really, I don't have a whole lot of interest.
All right, moving on. Philadelphia at Toronto, taking on the Blue Jays. 8 total in this game. Blue Jays a 165 favorite. Nola and Gaussman. I mean, really strong overall pitching matchup here. Aaron Nola, 9K. I mean, I think that price tag is super fair for Nola. I think, like, we always talk about, we want DraftKings and these sites to kind of entice us to play good pitchers in bad matchups. And I mean, this is a really tough matchup for Aaron Nola, but I mean, it's kind of the same argument I made yesterday with Zach Wheeler. Nola's above average against right-handed hitters. This lineup is very right-handed. They get 2 or 3 lefties in there at most, it seems like. I think that at 9K, we could take some shots. He's been all over the place, and I don't think there's anything safe about Aaron Nola. But against this right-handed heavy Toronto team, I think he's playable on this slate.
I completely agree with you. He's absolutely playable on the slate. But let me ask you a question. I want to know your take on this right away, because we already talked about it. Who would you prefer, James Paxton or Aaron Nola? James Paxton at 8,200 or Aaron Nola at 9K?
I'd probably play Paxton.
Me too.
I could pair them together too, though, for what it's worth. But yeah,
absolutely, yeah. But I mean, I just wanted to see where you stood with that, because I'd rather play Paxton for $800 less. But I completely agree with you that Nola is absolutely playable in a fairly good spot, because, like you said, Toronto's pretty right-handed heavy. So yeah, I think he's fine, but I prefer Paxton.
Gaussman on the other side. I mean, when we're looking at talent, I mean, there's a ton of talent on this slate, so it's not even like we can say, "Hey, Gaussman." Like some of the pricing on the pitching yesterday was just so off, and then like today, there's plenty of options under
Mm-hmm.
10-5. I mean, multiple guys. It feels like they're underpriced, so it's like, what are we doing here? But yeah, I mean, overall, I think Gaussman's in play. Is he my favorite? Probably not. I mean, just throwing it out there, if we expect Kershaw to see like a 15 pitch bump, I think 80 pitches against Milwaukee might be enough for me on this slate. So we'll talk about that. We have Castillo against Kansas City. We'll talk about that. Blake Snell is on this slate. I mean, there's at the top half of this like pitching slate, there's plenty of options, but I think Gaussman has earned the right to be in the conversation on any slate against any team.
I'm really like, so I like Gaussman over Kershaw just because, I mean, I understand that Kershaw could get there with 80 pitches against Milwaukee, but I'll stand pretty firmly that I strongly prefer playing Gaussman over Kershaw. I think he's safer than Snell, so I like him better than Snell. For me, it's kind of like between him and Castillo. That's just my opinion. And I think I'm going to give the nod to Gaussman. So I think overall, I mean, it kind of depends on where ownership lands. It kind of depends on your contest type. But like if you're playing just like, single entry, or you want to play like the quote unquote, best pitcher, safest pitcher, something like that, Gaussman would be my guy. I mean, he's got a 32.5% K rate, 6% walk rate. He does a great job of keeping the ball on the grounds. So, I mean, I think Gaussman is my preferred pitcher on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, I can't sit here and argue it. That's for sure. So, man, Philly bats. Any interest in the Philly bats here?
I'm trying to see who I would even consider as like a. I mean, you could always consider Schwarber, right? You can always one off Schwarber, as a really contrarian play. But there's really nobody. They're pretty expensive. Like there's no discount on Harper. There's no discount on Turner or Schwarber. I mean, they're all pretty priced up. So I think Schwarber would be my only kind of, try to get lucky and get a, random ceiling game from Schwarber.
Yeah, I will say, like, I don't disagree with the Schwarber take, but Gaussman is not typically a guy I like to target because he's not typically a guy that will get blown up. I know he had a game against Seattle not too long ago where he gave up, I think it was like 3 or 4 home runs in one outing.
Right.
That's not like a typical outing for Kevin
That
Gaussman.
happens to everybody in baseball. You gotta just throw that out. That stuff happens.
I never gave up 4 home runs in a game. The Toronto bats in this game, I mean, this is a tough matchup, both sides, right? We're going to have better matchups overall in the slate. I don't see myself like seeking out playing hitters from either side of this game.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like I don't have a ton of interest in either offenses, to be honest with you.
All right, we're moving on. We got Yankees and Braves. No total in this game. It does sound like Randy Vasquez will start. I don't know how long he'll pitch into this game. Came back after missing a month and threw 58 pitches against Miami last time out. Atlanta has gotten to the Yankee bullpen quite a bit here early in both games of this series. So like the bullpen's a little beat up. So I mean, it's something to keep in your thought process here. Charlie Morton, 8,500. Let's start with Vasquez. He's 6,200. He's cheap, but he's facing Atlanta, and he doesn't have the pitch count. This is an easy fade spot for me.
Yeah, we can. You could exclude him even in a 150 setting. Like you could just X button him. No chance.
Yep. Oh yeah, I'm out on that. So, Morton, man, he is somewhat interesting. My thing is like he has been struggling, I feel like, for a month and a half here, where like Elder I talked about Elder on the podcast yesterday. Talked about him on Grinders Live. I liked how he profiled against this like very right-handed offense. Well, it's not the same case. Like Charlie Morton is pretty splits neutral. He actually strikes out lefties a little bit more than he does righties. He has really been struggling. You look at his numbers over the last month. He's struggling with command. He's not missing bats. His swinging strike rate is down a little bit. I don't love this spot for Morton. I think you really gotta be able to attack the Yankees lineup, and I just don't know if Morton's that guy.
Yeah, and just from like construction point of view, I still prefer Paxton and I prefer Nola more. So I just he kind of falls in that range where I don't have a whole lot of interest. I think he could beat this lineup, but it's not really a spot that I want to attack.
Oh man, excuse me. Yankees bats. I mean, I definitely respect Charlie Morton, but I'm just gonna throw it out there that like he has been really struggling with command. Like, if he is gonna struggle with command, I mean, do we take some shots on a Yankee stack here?
They seem pretty cheap, don't they, Stevie?
I mean, outside of Judge,
States,
yeah, but it's
Stanton,
yeah.
4,200, Torres 3,900, Bader 3,300. I guess I know he's got pinch hit risk, but like Bowers is 2,700. Like I think I think it's a reasonable play, and I don't think they're going to come with a lot of ownership. So I think you'll get them as like a pretty contrarian stack, and so I really have no issue with that.
Yeah, I mean, thinking it out like in my head, it's like we like stacking against pitchers that have control issues because I mean, one or two walks and then one big hit, and it just opens it up. So, I mean, I think this is a spot you could stack the Yankees, and there's going to be a lot of top end stacks like the Yankees. Like I mean, you could easily fit a Yankee stack with Judge because of just how cheap the rest of the team is.
You could play 5 Yankees, no problem on the slate. Like no, absolutely no issue.
Atlanta on the other side of this game, I mean, I've just gotten to the point where I'm playing every day. I play 3 entry maxes usually, and I stack the Braves every day. Like
look at what Richie Smalls said in the chat. I'm playing the Braves every slate they're on till the end of the season. I don't mind that take one bit.
Who argues that strategy?
Right. Like, I mean, I can't really say no to that, Richie. Can't really say no to that to anybody. So, yeah, I mean, the only reason that I ever fade Atlanta is if they're in a really, really horrible matchup, which is tough for them, or if they're going to be like uber chalky because it's baseball and, getting leverage on the field is important. They're obviously not in a terrible matchup. And so it's just going to come down to ownership, right? Like if they're going to be mega chalk, like you're going to have to make a decision. Like we saw in the 121 tonight, I think Michael Harris was like 40% owned. Like they're getting really, really, really inflated ownership. So then, that's the only reason that you would fade this team. I mean, they're so above and beyond better than everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think on this slate there isn't. I don't have like one of these guys down here in like the 6K range where I'm like, man, I could see myself, playing a lot of this guy and being able to stack Atlanta. We'll talk about John Gray. He might be the best option.
I was just gonna say he's gonna be the guy.
Yeah, but I mean, even like a Gray Paxton combo. It gets you Atlanta, but I mean, you still need to get like a Harris and a Nicky Lopez in there, and those are the chalkiest 2 Atlanta hitters, because of where they're hitting, and because of how cheap Lopez is. So,
yeah,
I mean, I'm gonna definitely figure out an Atlanta stack, but this might be one of those slates where we might see their ownership down a little bit, just because of how many good pitching options that we have on the slate.
Right.
All right, Angels and Rangers, no total in this game. It sounds like it's going to be Canning, but he threw yesterday, so I highly doubt it's him. I'm seeing in multiple places that it's going to be Detmers, so I assume that it's going to be Detmers because Canning threw yesterday.
I
See, I don't
missed
know
that. I
why.
missed that. I missed that. I missed that. I guess.
I was trying to see what his price is real quick. So he's 8K.
Oh, all right. That changes things.
Yeah, he's a little pricey though against Texas, but
No, I was gonna say, like, I like stacking against him more than I was gonna be stacking against Canning, to be honest with you.
well, let's talk about it. I'm guessing in that aspect, you don't really have a ton of interest in Detmers here.
I don't know. I mean, just because I have so much respect for this Texas offense, I think that they're just really I think they're just such a powerhouse team. And it's just I have no interest in streaming pitchers against them pretty much all season. So I don't have interest in Detmers, and if it happens to be Canning, I don't have interest in Canning either.
Yeah, Detmers is a guy that's given up a ton of power. Still has some strikeout ability looking at his numbers for sure. Texas, I mean, they're not a very high strikeout team against left-handed pitching anyway. So we'll talk about these Texas bats in just a second. Let's talk John Gray. We kind of just hinted at it. He's 6,900.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
when we're
gonna
looking,
he's gonna be popular, Stevie.
yeah,
He's popular. Yeah.
under 7K. I mean, he would probably be the guy that I'd be like, hey, if I had to pick
Yeah.
someone to score over 20, he would be my favorite choice.
He's gonna be like the projections darling on Wednesday. I can like I'm sure of it. And people that like check out game logs are gonna see they had, a great performance last time out against San Francisco. He's gonna be like the chalk cheap pitcher. So you know, I I don't hate it. I don't think it's the worst chalk, but it is going to be chalk, and so we always have to be a little bit wary of chalky cheap pitchers, right? I mean, it's a little bit scary.
Yeah, I mean, John Gray is a guy that definitely gives up a ton of hard contact. So I like Gray. Let's talk about these bats for the Angels. I mean, I want to start with Otani. He's obviously the best hitter in this lineup. He's expensive. He is really priced up on the slate. Like, what are you doing with Otani and the Angels here?
Well, I know one thing that if I was making a ton of teams, I'd be making some teams with John Gray, and then making at least some hedge stacks of the Angels, just because John Gray could get lit up, and you'd be getting a ton of leverage on the field. Um, right now, like if I have to put my money on it right this second, I think John Gray wins this matchup. But he's like I said, he's gonna be popular. So Otani, Mickey Moniak, even Moustakis, I guess. I hate even saying his name, but you know, like I think that would be like an interesting 3-man stack.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think any slate Otani's on, you have to have interest. CJ
Yeah.
Crone being back in the lineup helps the lineup overall. It's one of those matchups where you're not excited to play the Angels. You know, Gray has some upside. You know, he's going to be popular. So, I mean, playing the Angels gives you a potential leverage spot. So, I mean, that's why you might get there. Texas bats, any interest in Texas here?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much always have interest in Texas. Marcus Semien, I think he's really, really expensive, and second base is always pretty weak. So I think like that's like a unique way of building like a GPP team is like spending up at second. I think Mitch Garver, if he gets to start at 3,600, is a really good play at catcher. Duran 3,900. I think he's an affordable piece. So yeah, like I really like this. I really like this team.
Yeah, I have interest in Texas for sure. Any any like anybody really? I mean, Detmer is definitely I want to target more righties here. So I will say, like, Corey Seager is very good, lefty. Just like
Yeah.
his brother Kyle was always good, lefty too.
Yeah, that's true. I
Um,
didn't even think of that.
Garcia, Duran, Garver, Heim, whoever catches out of those two, I think are in
Yep.
play. Simeon's been doing great here recently too. So Texas very
Yeah.
much in play.
Robbie Grossman's a cheap fill-in, as part of a stack.
He's always
What
hit
is
better
it?
from the right side too.
What I guess JP Martinez probably wouldn't get the start but he's 2,500. He probably wouldn't get the start against Detmers.
Yeah, I don't think he will, but I mean, I've been wrong before.
Yeah.
All right, windy series. We got the White Sox and the Cubs. No total out in this game. Early projections for wind blows out to center field.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
That changes everything.
It's 10 to 12 miles an hour. I'll definitely be.
That's big. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I'll be interested to see what Weather Edge has because I'm sure with that wind there'll be data. So I'm interested to see what we're looking at. And I mean, as far as the pitchers in this game are concerned, Mike Clevenger, he's pitching. He has not been terrible recently, I guess. Any interest in Clevenger here?
No chance if the wind's blowing out. So I was kind of looking at this game, but I didn't see anything about the wind yet. So I was kind of like, well, maybe I could play Clevenger at 5,700, but not a chance if there's gonna be wind blowing out at Wrigley.
Yeah, no, Cubs are one of my favorite stacks on the slate.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Javier Assad on the other side of this game, 6,400. The White Sox, not the best lineup in the world. Any interest in Assad here?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, no issue for me. No interest for me. I think the White Sox are one of the best value stacks on the slate. I mean, they are really underpriced for a windy Wrigley game.
Yeah, like when you said the whole thing about the wind, like I didn't even realize, and I was like, well, that changes the whole way I was thinking about building because now it's going to be really easy to play Gaussman and Nola. You know what I mean? Or double pay up at pitching or Gaussman and Castillo and play these cheap Chicago bats, even on the other side of the game. So yeah, the White Sox are an amazing spot.
Yeah, I mean, I like the White Sox a lot. I don't know if I full stack them just because, I mean, in my mind, I've full stacked them so many times and they haven't panned out. But this might be one of those games that like I do like a 4-4 type of stack. I get like my favorite 4 Cubs bats. I throw Robert in there as like the expensive part of the White Sox and then get 3 of these cheap bats. But I think this game is very game stackable with these pitchers. A lot of interest in the Cubs. Like I said, that they're probably my favorite stack on the slate. Like Tauchman, Happ, like these guys are really cheap still. So Bellinger obviously got to pay up a little bit for him. Candelario, but I mean, it's not like Clevenger scares me by any means.
No,
So
right.
I think this is an excellent spot to target the Cubs bets.
I'm excited to see what the total is going to be in this game. Like I'd
9.5,
imagine it's going to
10.5, 10.
Oh, I'd imagine if it's really going out, I'd imagine it'll be like 10.5 to 11.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked.
That's my guess. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I mean this is a fantastic spot. Yep, the Braves are playing, and I still like the Cubbies more. There you go. You gotta consider pricing too. Like you stack the Cubs, you're gonna be able to get a really solid pitcher combo, like just in general. So a lot of interest today in the Cubs bets.
Yeah.
All right, Seattle at Kansas City. No total in this game. What is going on? Castillo pitching for Seattle. Alec Marsh throwing at some point here. They have like bulk relieved him, like long relieved him the last couple times he's pitched. He did throw 91 pitches last time against Boston. maybe he starts in this game because he did.
Yeah.
Man, poor Jordan Lyles, by the way, just absolutely getting shelled. And they're like, hey, we're leaving you in there. Like, we're not taking you out. And as someone that had his under pitching outs, I was like, all right,
Oh,
time to
did
get him
you
out.
really? I didn't. Oh, oh man, that's a bad beat.
No, I mean I hit it. Oh no, he went under. His
Oh, he did.
pitching outs
Okay.
today was 17.5. I was like,
Uh,
what?
okay.
I saw that this morning and I instantly wrote it up on Scores and Odds. But
All
I also
right.
wrote up Bryce Elder strikeouts, so it was a squash day for me. Castillo against Kansas City. I mean, when we're looking at matchup, I think he has to be up towards the top of the board today.
He's number 2 for me. I mean, I'm just straight up number 2. Gausman's number 1. Castillo's number 2. Now that we've kind of talked about that Chicago game and how cheap that game is, if you can find a way, and I think you can, just looking at prices right now to play Gausman and Castillo and get Wrigley exposure, I love that. I love Castillo against the Royals at 9,600. Like he could absolutely smash his price. I mean, and we know that he has a leash, and that's why I'm so much like not into Kershaw, who we'll talk about. So I absolutely love Castillo.
Yep. I'm not playing Alec Marsh in this spot.
No.
Do you have any interest?
No. Easy exclude button, X button him.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it yesterday when it came to Jordan Lyles. Basically, I mean, the same thing. You really have to be able to attack this offense, and Alec Marsh is on the season 23% K rate guy. If we look more recently, his strikeout numbers have dipped big time. So I think overall, I
It's a
think
pretty
this
high.
is.
He has a pretty high walk rate, doesn't he?
Yeah, he struggles with
Like,
command big time.
yeah, like really, like over 12% walks. Like, I mean, we know that we like to stack teams against high walk guys. So I think Seattle would be an interesting stack, but I have absolutely no interest in Marsh at all.
Yeah, I like the Seattle stack again today. I think that, Alec Marsh is a guy that struggles with command and gives up a ton of power. Seattle is a team, if you can't beat them with overpowering them, they'll like
Right.
Jordan Lyles gave up 3 home runs and 4 hitters tonight. Like this is a team that has plenty of upside.
Yeah.
And cheap. I mean, Seattle's cheap again today.
Teoscar's 3,600.
Marlowe, the guy they called up, is like 34. France is 33. Just got back. Rojas, a cheap second baseman, 31. Canzone is 26. Like, there's a lot of cheap.
That's who I was looking for was Canzone. Couldn't find him. Oh, there. Yes, 2,600. Yeah, I mean that's a really good stack, and I bet you they're not going to come with a lot of ownership either. So,
any interest in the Kansas City bets?
Not at all.
Hey, I don't like them either.
Yeah, I mean, I love Bobby Witt. But I think he would just be a pass for me.
He'd be the one-off, him or Perez.
Yeah,
but not like I'm getting excited about it by any means. So.
Right. Yeah.
All right, Baltimore at San Diego. Hey, there's a total in this game. It's 8. The Padres a 166 favorite. Kramer against Snell. Any interest here in Dean Kramer?
I don't think so. Certainly not in my first 20 lineups. Maybe if I'm spreading out further than that, I could possibly get some exposure to him. I think he's decent. I think he's like a price point pivot from John Gray, who's going to be way higher owned at, $200 more. So in that way, to me, he might be like a contrarian way of, building a team with chalky bats and then getting different with Kramer over John Gray, if that makes sense. But I don't have like a whole ton of interest in him.
Yeah, I mean, the tough lineup, and it's not a guy that's going to go out there and really overpower the offense. He is better against righties, and they tend to have 6-7 right-handed hitters in the lineup. So I don't hate that aspect of it, but yeah, I don't love it. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like today is a day that I might prioritize pitching a little bit more than hitting, where it was exactly the opposite on Tuesday.
It was the opposite on Tuesday. You're absolutely right. I completely agree with that statement. Yep.
Every slate's a new slate, and you gotta think for it. Blake Snell, other side of this game, tough matchup. Baltimore is a solid offense. I will say they are slightly above average against left-handed pitching this season, but overall, I mean, they're still a good offense. Any interest here in Snell?
I think you have to have interest just because this K upside is so elite. But I'm really struggling on what to do with him. I think he probably has the highest ceiling on the slate, even higher than Gaussman. But I also know that this is a tough matchup, and he can get wildly inefficient. So it just makes me nervous. So would he be somebody I'd match the field with in a 20 max? Probably. Like I don't want to fade him, but I don't want to get like grossly overweight him either.
Yeah, man, Blake Snell is one of the most.
He's frustrating, right? Like
Yeah.
how do you? I mean, I don't really know what to say. Like he could end up walking 6 guys, pitching 3 innings and getting you 8 fantasy points, or he could get you 40. Neither one of those outcomes would surprise me in the least, right? Am I wrong?
It's something. I mean, I don't know, man. It's such a tough team for me, or tough pitcher for me to figure out. Like Blake Snell is always one of those guys where I'm like, I never get this guy right.
Right.
He went on a stretch where he looked like the best pitcher in baseball, and then he's like, "Hey, I'm Blake Snell. I'm back. What's up, everyone?"
Right. Right.
And I mean, I looked through the data against Pittsburgh when, like, I was looking at him playing him against Pittsburgh. I was like, why did he stop? Like, he was using his changeup a lot less, and I mean, using his changeup a lot more in that like stretch of like dominating. It's like, why are you not using it more? But I think in large field tournaments, you have to play him. I mean, in large field tournaments too, you can stack against him because he's Blake Snell. But we really haven't seen like that like blow up game Blake Snell since like the beginning of the year. So I'm probably not going there. I would have a little bit of exposure. Like Blake Snell's probably like a 1 of 3 guy for me. I'll probably have him on one of my three entry max builds.
I think that's fair because that ceiling is so good that you might have to have it to finish in the top 1% of a GPP.
When he's on, man, is
when he's on,
really good.
Yep.
I actually got Kikuchi right today too, Ron. Baltimore bats. Any interest in Baltimore?
Only as part of like a contrarian stack, I guess, but not really. Like, I mean, we just talked about how wild Snell can get. So obviously, more walks, more base runners. So, maybe Ryan Mountcastle at 3,800 would be interesting as a one-off, but I don't really have any interest in this team outside of just contrarian stacks.
Yeah, I'll say this. Mountcastle was going to be the one guy I mentioned. He's hit left-handed pitching all year.
Yeah.
Any interest in San Diego here?
They're pretty expensive. They're just teams that I like better. Kramer is decent enough. Like, he's obviously not a great pitcher, but I think San Diego kind of falls down the board for me compared to some of the other teams that we've already spoken about. So, I mean, obviously, Fernando Tatis is an amazing play, but this stack as a whole, I don't have that much interest in.
All right. Moving on. Last game, we got Milwaukee at LA taking on the Dodgers. Nice little hour and a half between this game and the San Diego game. So real late night hammer. 8.5 total. We got Kershaw and Miley. Any interest here in Clayton or Wade Miley? Sorry, I almost went backwards.
No, absolutely. I have no interest in Wade Miley.
Yeah, I think you got to find upside and ceiling, and this is just not like that spot that
No.
you're going to find ceiling. So,
Yep.
no interest from me in Wade Miley. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Clayton Kershaw. He got that back issue.
Yep.
Hey, we need to shut him down for a month and a half because we need him healthy throughout the playoffs. Back issue. He's 9,900. He's expensive. Milwaukee is one of the worst teams in baseball against left-handed pitching. I think they're fourth worst in WRC plus and 26% K rate, which is one of the highest. What are you doing with Kershaw today?
I have very, very little interest in him. I think this is the wrong slate. I know, I understand it's a great matchup, but it's the wrong slate. And I do not see a world where he pitches more than 85 pitches. So he is competing against pitchers who have significantly longer leashes, who I think are in comparable spots. I'd rather pitch Gaussman. I'd rather pitch Castillo. I'd rather pitch Snell, just because Kershaw doesn't have that ceiling that Snell has. I mean, he can't with this limited pitch count. So I'd rather pitch Snell. So I really don't have that much interest in him. Is he going to get you 20 points? Probably, but I don't think he's going to get you much more than that.
Oh, I could see Clayton Kershaw just being so efficient in this spot, going 6 innings, striking out 8, and going over 30 and winning the game. Maybe I'm crazy. But I mean, think back one of the first starts of the year. I was just looking at it. Hold on, I gotta pull it back up. I think his first start of the year, he threw 75 pitches and scored 30 fantasy points. Yeah. So Arizona, he faced Arizona 6 innings. He had 9 strikeouts. He had 31 fantasy points with 76 pitches. So I mean, his typical increase looking at the last few years is about 15 pitches. So I'm assuming that he'll throw 80 to 85 pitches here. Yeah. I mean, you're going to need him to be ultra efficient. Love the matchup.
Oh, yeah. I'm not arguing about the matchup. Do you, let me ask, how do you rank Gaussman, Castillo, Snell, Kershaw? How do you do your ABCD?
I mean, so for sake of just looking at the top 5 guys, going Nola up as far as pricing. Castillo would be number 1 for me. Okay. I think I'd put Gaussman 2. Yeah. I think if I'm ranking on ceiling, I'd go Snell 3, Kershaw 4, Nola 5.
Okay. Yes. All right. So I guess we really only have 1 and 2 flipped because I have Gaussman 1.
I mean, the $900 is an extra big hitter, in my opinion. And I think that Castillo has a better matchup than Gaussman. That's the only reason I have Castillo over Gaussman.
Yep. No, I certainly, I don't have much to argue against that at all. I just hate playing pitchers that I know basically have to be perfect.
He does. There's no, his ceiling. If he hits his ceiling, which is probably only 30, 32 points here, he has to throw a ultra efficient, high strikeout matchup. But if it was, 98% of the other pitchers in baseball, I'd be like, nah, no interest.
Right.
He's that 1%, right? He's that type of guy. So that's more of the reason why
you certainly make a fair argument. You're certainly not saying anything I really disagree with. Just so few outs for him to get away with, winning a GPP.
He's the lowest owned out of the 5 though, right? Projected ownership wise, I feel like he's the lowest owned out of the 5 because of the pitch count.
I think Nola will be, to be honest with you.
Even with the price difference?
So Nola is what, 9K and Kershaw's 99.
900's another at bat.
Yeah, I
Another
still
bat.
I think Nola will be lower owned.
All right.
But he'll be lower. Kershaw will be lower owned than Snell, Gaussman, and Castillo. I definitely agree with that.
I have no interest in the Milwaukee bats. They're gonna get Kershaw, and then they're gonna get this bullpen. I mean, yeah, Dodgers still middle of the road bullpen, but still a good enough bullpen for me not to have interest here, especially when you're getting Kershaw for 80 pitches.
Right. Yeah. No Milwaukee for me.
Dodgers bats, man. I love Dodgers again. Like, they're not doing it here on Tuesday night, and it's tilting me. I have a really good FanDuel team going, and it's like, hey, Dodgers, anytime you want to wake up, anytime you want to, show up and play baseball, hey. So yeah, I mean, I expect, like, thought process wise, I'll probably end up going back to the Dodgers in this spot. I know that Hauser has like a no hitter. Yes, I'm talking about it because I want it to go away. Hauser has like a no hitter through three. But no, I mean, all joking aside, Wade Miley is not a guy that's going to go out and overpower an offense. This is a spot where he has been struggling with walks and command, especially against righties. I mean, load up on the Dodgers. JD Martinez came back on Tuesday, so him being back in there is another good righty. So, I mean, you got Martinez, Smith, Betts, Freddie, lefty, don't hate it. I think this is a great spot to target the Dodgers, and they were mostly, for what it's worth, like under 10% on Tuesday's slate. People just don't like playing those late games. They want to watch their hitters.
I was just gonna say, like, I wonder if the way that this game is set up time wise is gonna bring down their ownership, and if so, this is the team that you stack when you play John Gray, right, in one of your John Gray teams, because this is just such a fantastic spot for the Dodgers. This is why I don't have that much interest in the Padres, who are also expensive. Like, this is a way better spot. So I absolutely love the Dodgers as a late night hammer. I think they're a fantastic play.
All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we will get out of here. I gotta get a home run pick, man. Matt Olson's beating me up this week. Under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts. What do you got?
I gotta take John Gray. I know it's the easy one, but I like it.
Yeah, I think he has the highest potential to get there. Honestly, I don't really love anybody else. If I had to choose somebody, I'd say Mackenzie Gore. He would be the other guy that I would target for strikeouts.
I think that's a really good call.
I don't love it, but yeah.
No, but I think it's a good call.
Pitching under 8K today is awful. Over 8K to score under 15. Who's your bust today?
Well, this is another pretty easy one. I think it's got to be Charlie Morton for me.
Yeah, his recent struggles, he was the guy that I had written down as well. Give me Paxton. I like Paxton today, but looking at everybody else, when Paxton's off, he's easily hittable. So I'll go Paxton. I'm going to play some Paxton today. I'm not saying that I'm not.
Right.
Over 4K to hit a home run. We don't have cores today, so don't have to worry about that. Who's going yard today?
Candelario. All
right. I'm going to go Bellinger.
Yep.
Under 4K to get 2 hits. Who's a cheap bet that you like here? Oh, see, the no-hitter is gone. All I had to do was start talking about it. You're welcome, Derek. I needed it gone too. Don't worry. Yeah, under 4K, 2 hits.
Eloy Jimenez.
I'm gonna go Ian Happ. Yep. Stack to score 6 or more runs today. Who do you got?
I'm not gonna use Wrigley, even though I think they're both good to do that. But I'm gonna go with Seattle.
Hey, I picked them yesterday. Definitely a team I would consider playing again today. Give me Texas against Detmers. I like Texas today.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
They're like Braves. Listen, we hear you guys. We try to. I'm not going to sit here and say Cubs, even though Cubs are my favorite stack. I'm not going to sit here and say Braves. I'm not going to say Dodgers. So, Tim, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No. Thanks, Stevie. Thanks for having me on as always. Good luck, everyone.
All right, Freeman just got a hit. Oh, see, all I had to do is talk about it. That's going to wrap it up here for Wednesday. If you want my thoughts on the early slate, free crunch time tomorrow morning, me, Kevin Roth, and Cheese is Good. Should be a ton of fun I think it's at like 12:40 or 12:30 on the East Coast. So if you want our thoughts on that 4-game early slate, tune in. Got some day baseball. Get to talk baseball with Cheese. Never hate that. Hope everyone has a fantastic Wednesday. We'll be back Thursday talking more baseball. Good luck, everyone.